Ben je nog aan het kijken? 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 Met Xander de Rijke.
My advice to you is seek professional help.
Hello everybody and welcome to Ben je nog aan het kijken, the podcast where we talk to guests about their favorite shows or about their career in television. I am your host Xander de Rijke and welcome to this special episode where we delve into the career of a legend in voice acting. If you have ever watched any dubbed anime series or played any video game, chances are very high you might have heard today's guests. Just to name a few of his credits in video games, of course all the Dragon Ball series as well as the Naruto series, but also World of Warcraft, Castlevania, Street Fighter, Resident Evil, League of Legends, Final Fantasy and many others. His work in voice acting stretches on with roles in Bleach, One Piece, Naruto, Gurren Lagann, Blue Exorcist, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Baki and My Hero Academia. But most recognizable, he is the voice of one of my childhood and still favorite anime series, Dragon Ball Z, where you might know him as the narrator, Adult Gohan and Ox King. Please welcome to the podcast, the voice that announced Dragon Ball Z and my puberty, Kyle Hebert.
Ben je nog aan het kijken?
The TV I grew up on was comprised of, tons of cartoons, as I think most children are all about. The one that I instantly gravitated to was Looney Tunes, classic Warner Brothers. My dad would watch that with me and just crack up because that's what he grew up on. And that really resonated with me, not just because it was fun and I liked it, but because when my dad told me that Mel Blanc voiced all these characters, this one guy did the voices, I thought, oh, that's cool. I want to do that. So this was back in the 70s and I had a little tiny cassette recorder and I would record myself doing silly voices and fake commercials and pretend DJ and all that sort of thing, all the while watching old shows, things that, eventually would be known as anime. But back then it was like Battle of the Planets, Star Blazers. I watched a lot of the Land of the Lost and a lot of other Sid and Marty Krofft kids live action shows too. But mostly it was the cartoons that really, and that stuck with me through adulthood. I'm basically a kid trapped inside a middle-aged man now at this point. But yeah, I would watch Animaniacs in college and Batman the Animated Series and all that stuff. And, nowadays, they're making shows for every age group. You have Love, Death, and Robots anthology series on Netflix. And, they had the Vox Machina Critical Role thing on Amazon, which I haven't seen yet, but I hear great things about. And I'm excited to check that out because basically I know all those people. They're colleagues, also voiceover stuff.
Must be exciting to grow up and get the chance to work next to these guys.
Oh, God, yeah.
Meeting Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman or something.
Yeah. And I got to do that at a con where I flew to Australia and New Zealand. And, it was like back-to-back weekends booked by the same convention owners. And yeah, just meeting Kevin Conroy in the break room. He's sitting there reading the newspaper and he's just as sweet as can be. Like, oh my God. And I'm going, all I had with me was a copy of the first Arkham Knight game.
Yeah.
And like, oh. I totally fanboyed out.
Did you ever got to work on a Warner Brothers cartoon or meet Mel Blanc himself, or did he pass away before?
No, he passed away right after Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out in 89. Didn't get a chance to meet him or any of the other classic things like Dawes Butler or anything like that, unfortunately. But I have been auditioning for cartoons for Warner Brothers and Disney and Nickelodeon for many years. And I'm very, very eternally grateful for that because, before the pandemic, it's all about being where the work is. Yeah. And now during pandemic and probably post. We'll have yet to see how the industry is affected, but voice talent are basically recording from home. We're basically all up to broadcast studio standards, and my little booth space is simply a walk-in closet. And for some people, that required upgrading, expensive equipment or buying digital programs that aren't exactly cheap, like Source Connect. That's something I use a lot. There's Session Link Pro that some of the studios use that I don't have to have a membership for. But we'll literally like dub to video transmitted through Zoom or Skype or Session Link Pro, and then Source Connect and other programs we're able to record on both ends. Sometimes they ask me to record a backup on my ends. I just hit record on Adobe Audition is the program I use, though the industry standard is Pro Tools. That's what a lot of the big guys use, but that's too convoluted for me. My brain can't hack it, but I used Audacity for years, which is free. and it's a good go-to, but there's some more bells and whistles on Adobe Audition. I just wish I could buy the program outright, but they have you
rent it,
subscribe.
Yeah.
The subscription model. I'm like,
I've been using it for 10 years for podcasts now.
Yeah.
I love it, but you never own it. You rent it. Miss the days of a disc.
You rent it, and here for our tax purposes, we can write certain things off. So, okay, maybe I'll save some money in the end. Not have to pay the government, thousands of dollars, and we'll see.
So you wanted to do voices as a kid, and I can imagine it wasn't a straight line to actively, professionally doing voices on shows. What was the transition job or career that came before?
It was a second life wish goal for careers for me was getting on the radio. Like I said, I was pretend DJ on my cassette recordings. Like I had that whole thing of like, it was larger than life to introduce records and be wacky. I wanted to fuse them both together. And then when I went to college, I got an internship for class credit at a radio network. And then I graduated college in '93, and I started as an intern, and then eventually worked my way to an actual employee on the air, and then to full time in '96 through 2005. I was on all these different formats through the years: country, top 40, big band, heavy metal, hard rock, to kids radio. Disney has it recently went off the air this past year, but Radio Disney was a kids top 40 type radio station. And I was on the air doing exactly what I love to do. Like I was on the heavy metal station. I was just playing, NSYNC and Backstreet Boys instead of Metallica.
I can imagine you have a great voice for radio. Just the timbre, like we say here, the voice that carries, like for
thanks
stuff.
Well, you have a very commanding presence yourself. Don't sell yourself short.
Oh, thank you. No, I was just thinking because there seems to be a lot of voiceover artists who got their start in radio. I was just thinking about Billy West.
Yeah.
Because he started in radio, and a lot of his voices are, like he calls it, based on big dumb jockeys who, like he says, carry their balls in their throat, like they just overpronounce every song like that.
Enunciate. Yeah, just over the top.
Exactly.
And Billy West is one of my heroes and idols, and I've gotten to not really, well, I did work with him once on a commercial, but not in a true like cartoon sense. That's what like the big goal is, to sit in the room with all these cartoon legends and record cartoons, and then they ship it off to wherever to animate, and then a year or two later it comes back and then airs. And like that's something that I've had the most fun doing. I've done a little bit of that domestic animation called prelay, where you lay down the audio before the animation. I've done that a few times with great, very talented people, but the icons of the industry that are still in there today, like Rob Paulson, Maurice LaMarche, Billy West, all these people that were doing cartoons decades ago, Ren and Stimpy, Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, all that stuff, and then crossover into Batman and all that stuff. It's like, oh, it's kind of a small world in a big world. But the thing is that even though there seems to be a lot of us coming from radio, it's not the traditional route. A lot of people kind of stumble into it because they are theater actors, or maybe on camera, and they hear about auditions through other actors, or maybe friends of a friend, and then suddenly they're auditioning for voiceover stuff, which they never planned to do, but were interested in because, hey, a gig's a gig, right? And we're always trying to debunk misconceptions about the industry. It's like, oh, you do voice acting. Have you done any real acting? I don't think people mean to be mean about it. I think they just understand it as a different beast. But the thing is, voiceover is just another type of acting. And it's just simply removing the physicality. And so instead of on camera with eye lines and all that stuff and physicality of moving and hitting your mark and all that, this is all about staying in the same place for your mic placement and channeling physicality just simply through your voice. And it's interesting how some actors who come from the on-screen world or on stage talk about how much a challenge it is, but that's all I've ever known. And I've done a little bit on camera in student films and things like that. And it's like, it's fun, but voiceover is very focused. You record, and it doesn't matter what you look like or what you're dressed in. Normally, I mean, especially now, pants are optional. You know, you're in your closet, no one sees you. But it's like, you're focused, you record for a couple hours, and then you're done. You sign your paperwork and a paycheck shows up a couple of weeks later. Whereas on camera, they're on set for 12 plus hours a day, waiting for the hair and the makeup, the wardrobe, the lights to set up and all this stuff. And it's very complex and, dare I say, boring because hurry up and wait. Yeah. When I got here, one of the things I did when I moved to LA was sign up to be a background actor, an extra, they call them. And I didn't book a lot of work doing that. But when I did, I noticed the pattern right away. There's a lot of sitting around. You know, they want you to leave your cell phone in the car or sign NDAs that you're not going to take pictures of the set and all that, which I respected. But there's a lot of waiting. Yeah. And it's like, this is not glorious. This is not what I thought of Hollywood. I mean, it's probably the same for people on camera. It's like, oh gosh, this takes forever. But voiceover, man, you have fun. Even when you're on your own. In cartoons, you're with the whole cast, right? But with anime and video games, you're recording separately. And it's just you and the director and the engineer.
Hey guys, what's happening?
Hey there, Gohan. Hi, Gohan, what's up? We all thought that you were dead.
I would have been if it wasn't for the help of Supreme Kai, but that's all in the past. I think it's time to focus on the here and now.
When I discovered the voice of young Gohan and the announcer voice, that's miles apart.
Yes.
And that's amazing to me. Just that deep next time and just this clean American young guy cut voice.
Thank you.
It's impressive, that range. It really is.
Thank you. Yeah, I got to show off some diverse things on Dragon Ball back in the day. You know, being Gohan, once he starts going to high school, took over that role and up till now. And the narrator just on Dragon Ball Z, I wasn't the first, but I was the one that was ultimately on the version you can get today on streaming. And
you were my first. Blu-rays. You were my first announcer voice.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. I used to go around before I was working on the show. I was a fan of the show and I would go around imitating the narrator, which was the Canadian version in English, Doc Harris. And then there was a different narrator. And then I ended up taking over for him after I'd been doing Gohan's voice for a few months. And then after that, we started dubbing Dragon Ball at the same time, the original series. And then I got cast as Ox King, which I had taken over from some other actors in the time. So it's like, oh boy, yeah. And then next time on Dragon Ball Z, fight you? No, I want to kill you. And the thing is, we record them all one at a time. So it's not like you have to, even though Billy West is especially good at doing this, he can have conversations with his characters with himself. And it's just like, oh, this is magic to watch. But yeah, because of technicalities, technical things, they record on different files, each role. So we're able to just get all the lines together. Even if you talk to yourself, which I did with Wes Kai and Pycon in like a couple of scenes of Dragon Ball Z, they talk to each other, but I didn't have to rotate back and forth. We're doing one line at a time as one character at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Dragon Ball Z was the first English dubbed anime we got in Belgium, because Belgium has a French part and a Dutch speaking part. And the French part has gotten anime way before us, like way, way, way before us. All French dubbed, called Club Dorothée was the name of it. So Dragon Ball Z around early 2000s was the first English anime we got. Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Beyblade and Digimon came after in Dutch, but we never saw a Dutch dubbed Dragon Ball. So for everybody listening to this podcast, you are the definite voice of their Gohan and their announcer.
That's an honor. And things like that are just mind-blowing to reach a worldwide audience like that. Think about that in the moment when you're recording in a studio and you're just there to please the director or the client through the director, or maybe they're on the phone or Skype, or maybe they're there physically. Or most of the time it's just the director and you. And it's like the director has studied the material and the actors are blank slates. We have no idea what we're recording that day. We haven't seen the episodes ahead of time. So we have to, fine tune those skills of cold reading and improv and things to be able to give a performance on the fly. Look at your line, look at the footage and go, and then be able to adjust it from there. Commit to a performance, but also be flexible with it. And, and sometimes you're coming up with a voice too, because a lot of us who have the main roles of narrator and Gohan also voice background characters, some random city citizen or some military dude who gets shot or whatnot. We're all doing all that. And sometimes it's fun to sit there and watch cartoons and say, hey, that one cop was also Kevin Conroy, or like that sounds like Billy West too.
Was Dragon Ball Z the big first one for you?
Oh yeah. I consider that to be my first true voiceover gig, and it's like, wow, I'm starting big. This is awesome. I had done voiceover type things like with radio, like commercials, and like I consider Radio Disney to be a hybrid. Because we would do radio drama things, not live, but pre-recorded things where we would have kids record parts and a lot of the DJs would record things, and we would do different features. We called them infotainment. Like I would do a character voice, sort of like Gohan, but make it like sound like a surfer dude, And I would teach science facts, like, whoa, and I would dudify science things to explain to kids and everything. And it's just what a wild playground, and play sound effects and this theater of the mind thing that I've now brought back because I do my own podcast now. And I'm kind of channeling my old DJ self without the music, just talking to myself in my own original characters, editing them together. And so they overlap a little bit and pretend I'm on a spaceship and have sound effects and things to accent things and all that. Just to, now that Audible audiobooks, podcasts are kind of bringing a new renaissance to radio or audio drama. So people are on the go, they're stuck in traffic, they're in the car and they listen to podcasts and things. It's like, it's bringing back an older form of entertainment. Like TV stars were first the giant celebs of radio back in the day. And it's like, wow, it's going kind of full circle. All the TV and radio, or the TV and movie people, depending if they have the budget, are lured in to do these audio drama things now.
Is there more uncertainty in not knowing if a character is coming back because it's an anime? Because it's overseas, right. Like you don't know what they're going to do about it, if there's a next season, if he's coming back.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and maybe it's just a timing issue, maybe the Japanese studios don't necessarily send all the materials ahead of time or give a heads up to the studios that are hired in America to produce the English dubs. So sometimes even the director is like, I have no idea if this guy comes back. I don't think I've ever had an occasion where the director is like watching seasons ahead of what we're recording. It's like, oh yeah, your guy comes back. If anything, something more common is someone who was in 1 or 2 episodes early on in a show and they think has gone away, comes back to be the big villain or something. It's like, and then the actor's like, what? I'm like, yeah, you come back. And then I'm not like a huge part on One Piece, but it seems like every 2 years, my character Capone comes back for a few episodes and then he disappears into the background. And then it's like, well, your One Piece guy's back. And like, yep, it's about that time. Yeah.
But then like moments, if I'm not mistaken, the next Dragon Ball Z movie is a pretty Gohan-centric movie.
That's what I'm reading. I'm pretty stoked, but I mean, I'm honest, I haven't heard when the timeline is going to be, when we're going to record it. I'm assuming that we'll record it. That's not even up. I mean, I think it's a no-brainer. Of course, the English dub or the past few movies, they've made a lot of money at the box office and they were holding their own against all these other big Hollywood movies. And it's exciting to see. And if anything, I've been waiting for years for Gohan to be great again. His potential has been squashed for years, ever since Z, actually, when he got absorbed by Majin Buu. And it's like, you've seen him and it's like, well, I'm going to go study and be a better dad than Goku was and be a better husband and all that. And it's like, well, that's great. And now he's a responsible dad and all that stuff too. And he's smart, but come on, let's get him back in the fight. This is an action show. And then he got to show off a little of that in Super. And, you know, maybe now Gohan and his real dad, Piccolo. Can it's like, hey, Vegeta, Goku, just come on. You've had your time. Let's share the stage for a little bit.
Well, I always loved his whole superhero persona thing he had going on, and especially in these times when superheroes are bigger than ever, it would be a glorious comeback.
That would, and I've had the most fun. I mean, it's great, of course, voicing an iconic character in an iconic franchise, but getting to do a side character voiced by that same character, you know, he's putting on that whole justice and I'm a superhero, you know. he's channeling that old school thing that Billy West was talking about, where you enunciate everything, crime, and but he has all this personality, and it was great to see when Funko Pop finally dropped a Great Saiyaman figure, and I was signing so many of them at the cons. For a few years, I was under the impression that he was considered like Jar Jar Binks. It's like, well, it's Star Wars, but it's like, oh yeah, Gohan in this silly side filler story. It's like, come on, be tough. I'm like, no, I had so much fun back in the day going from tough Gohan or innocent, quirky, awkward high school Gohan to super powerful to silly Superman, you know, Saiyaman stuff. And any chance, you know, nowadays it's more common with the games to have those different roles come up. But now that the movies have taken off and been so spectacularly successful, I'm always just chomping at the bit to get to return. And it's like, oh, does he become Saiyaman again? Or, you know.
I can imagine all the anime you do can be a strain on the voice, because a lot of these characters don't talk like American characters. They do a lot of and recharging and reloading and just being surprised. I can imagine you can only do like a couple of hours a day max before it just, you know, kills the throat.
Yeah, they'll have to divide up into multiple sessions. Like when I record as Ryu on Street Fighter, they'll say, yeah, you got like 12 hours. So we're going to break that up into like 4 sessions or whatever. It's like whenever you're comfortable and we'll take as many breaks as you need. And I'm sitting there with hot tea and honey and Chinese cough syrup that totally helps you, you know, coat the throat and vocal cords. And then after you're done screaming, your voice is somewhat intact. So you can continue to work at another gig later that day or the next day and all that. But yeah, it's not any one particular role that takes its toll. It's any time when you have to do a lot of screaming. And there have been video games and shows in the past where I do nothing but scream. And then I'm gargling razor blades at the end. This is and they want you to do more than one take, especially on video games. You have to do like 3 takes in a row. And I remember Richard Epcar telling the story that he was voicing someone, and they got to the end of the session and they do all the conversational stuff, the talking, the calm stuff first, and then the death screams and the fight reactions at the end, because they know that's going to thrash your voice. So the director's all excited. He's like, all right, the last thing we're going to do, your character is on fire for 10 seconds straight. So now he's like, you got to give 3 takes. So 30 seconds total of screaming like, it's not like you can channel like, well, I remember that one time. I'm a little method about this. That one time I was set on fire. You got to hope for the best. Screaming at the top of your lungs and, hope you don't peg and distort the meters on the engineer's side. And, oh God, I can't imagine that. But I have done like soldiers and stuff. And like in the first Titanfall game, I do nothing but battlefield. No, get down, move now. And like, it's like, okay, 3 more. Like,
Even that can be so powerful, because I talked to John Kassir a couple of weeks ago, the Crypt Keeper, of course.
Yeah.
And he has done, he's one of those guys who does a lot of just creature effects kind of voices. And there was one moment he just like made a noise to just show me something, make a noise. That was Diablo 3. Like that's insane how quickly something triggered that in me.
Yeah, that's wild. I remember hearing the story from an engineer at a studio I work with a lot. And I've since met Peter Cullen, Optimus Prime, got to shake his hand and stuff in the lobby one time. But the story I heard that was so cool is the engineer was told a story by Peter Cullen when he recorded on Predator on the movie. And it's like, what are you talking about? What did he do? He did the Predator, all those clickety sounds. And he's the one that made that up. The studio didn't know what they wanted. They just know that they brought Peter Cullen in. And he could do different creature sounds. And well, okay.
I do see on your resume you do a lot of anime, and a lot of them I know. But do you do a lot of anime because you get asked to do a lot of anime, or do you just become the anime guy?
I think it's more a case of just working with the people or the studios, and once they say, oh yeah, we had them on this type of project, let's continue to audition them. And we'll all read for different types of things. And my agent here in LA is like, oh yeah, we just noticed a trend. The commercial people tend to book commercials mostly. The anime people tend to book anime mostly. Cartoons. And it's like, I want to see crossover, man. I didn't grow up saying I want to dub. I didn't even know what the concept was as a little kid. Like, oh, you have to match the lip sync and all that. I just wanted to do cartoon stuff. But I'm so grateful that I've gotten to cut my teeth on it, doing video games, doing anime, and now a lot of live action shows that get licensed by Netflix and they want English dubs for. And we do a lot of that. So you may not see the names in the credits, but you might hear a voice that's like, hey, that's so-and-so from that one anime. That does happen. And we're thankful because the work has continued even through the pandemic. The voiceover industry has survived, might even go as far as saying thrived during the time, because people can record from home. So the shows can continue to get cranked out at a pretty quick pace. And I'm continuing to read for all sorts of things. Another type of project I do is e-modules, e-learning. They're basically, instead of training manuals that you would read, they're like interactive slideshows that people learning different courses, or maybe they're online too. I'm teaching technical things. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I have to sound like I do. And they have weird pronunciation sometimes. And it's actually, I'm doing it for a French company, but I have to do the English version of it. And it's like, this is interesting. Okay. It's not the most fun, but I think it's important for people in voiceover or interested in voiceover to keep their minds open, because you never know where your jobs and auditions may take you. And, what's your job? Your job is to audition. You're hopefully good. It's bonus if you actually land the gig, but it's so competitive, right? There's people literally around the world all reading for these parts, and The chances of you actually booking it have nothing to do with how good you are or anything. You might get a leg up because you've worked with a director or studio before, but sometimes that just means maybe your audition might get listened to first. It doesn't mean you're going to definitely get cast, but the people that are cast are really good. And that's why you hear a lot of the same people for years. And it's like, they're going to have to die before you pry that role from them.
What are some of the favorite shows you worked on? Your favorite shows?
Well, definitely Dragon Ball, because it was a show that I began as a fan of for about 5 years before I started working on it. Because in the US, they've been re-airing the first 2 sagas of the Canadian English version. And it's like, oh, what a great show. And then suddenly I'm working on it, like dream come true. And I'm working on something I'm a fan of. What? And that kind of spitballed into other things like Yu Yu Hakusho and Full Metal Alchemist. And then I moved to LA, and Steve Bloom, legendary voice actor here, we met at a con in 2004. And I told him, I plan to move to LA. It's like, well, when you do, I'll introduce you to people. And I thought, oh, he's just being nice. Oh, he totally did. I came out, was scanning for places to live, and he took me around to all his sessions and ended up, I booked some jobs. And he said, hey, this guy from Texas is coming. He worked on Dragon Ball. You should get it. And so thanks to that walk-in, I got to read and eventually booked Kiba on Naruto because I was with that studio. I got to read for Bleach. I ended up getting Aizen, the main villain on that. A few years later, I'm working with Bang Zoom Studios on tons of different animes. And then I finally get this big role on Gurren Lagann as Kamina. And then I get Ryu on Street Fighter through New Generation Pictures, which I had done some anime dubs for. And it's all leading into other big things. Ryu is a huge one for me because he got to be in Wreck-It Ralph for, 10 seconds. It's like, hey, I got to be in a Disney movie and I don't have to be a movie star. This is great. So those guys at Disney that created that movie are gamers, and they know how important having those original voices are. It's like, I'm not the first Ryu by any means, but I'm the current one. And they did that with Roger Craig Smith. He's the current Sonic. So having him on there as well, that was cool. And then back to Kamina on Gurren Lagann. He's the one I've heard the most positive praise about in terms of inspiration, in terms of helping people through tough times, whether they're depressed or needing some sort of light in the darkness. And that show and that character has really spoken to them. And I hear their stories. They tell me through social media. They come to tell me through my line at the conventions, and they'll say, hey, man, I want to thank you. That performance and that character meant so much to me. And it's like, that's the real icing on the cake right there. You have fun because you're an actor and you want to entertain. But when you can basically be a therapist for someone through entertainment and help someone in some way escape reality for just a little while, that's powerful. And I'm very, very honored, and it just blows my mind that I get to be a part of an industry that does that.
Yeah, it's the power of the voice. Like I told some friends, I was interviewing you for the podcast, and they were a little fuzzy, like, what voices does he do? And he's like young Gohan on Dragon Ball Z. And they just did, he's that guy that goes, next time. And you just see him melt back to 12, 13-year-old kids. Just, oh my God, he's him. That's amazing. I love seeing that.
Yeah, and that's something I didn't even foresee. I'm back in the day growing, doing the narrator and doing Gohan, and then it airs on Cartoon Network here in the United States, and it's the #1 show at the time, and it's going through this huge wave of popularity. Never do I think, oh, these kids are going to grow up and remember this. It's like, well, of course they're going to remember it. I grew up on Bugs Bunny and all this stuff, and of course they're going to remember it. And then, if I met Mel Blanc in some alternate universe, I would be telling him the story. It's like, oh my God, Bugs Bunny, you inspired me to do what I'm doing today, or whatever. I would be doing the same thing. It's like, you're the voice of my childhood, the way all these other legends like Billy West and and Peter Cullen and all these people say, you're the voice of my childhood. It's like, I'm hearing that too. I'm in the you're the voice of my childhood club. That's like, what? This is insane.
And can you feel new generations add up? Like especially Dragon Ball, but the new season must have had like this resurgence of just love and affection of new fans.
Yeah, it's wild how some things, they have their day in the spotlight and then they kind of fade into obscurity. But then other things are so powerful in people's lives that they never go away. Star Wars being one of them, whatever it is, and generations. Exactly. You speak to that. And I see it at conventions now. It used to be mostly kids, but now it's more families. Mm-hmm. Those kids grew up to become parents themselves, and they're bringing their kids, and they're all cosplaying together. And some are even naming their kids after characters from shows and games, like, hi, I want you to meet Anakin, or this, I have met a Gohan. It's like, what? Is this even? I mean, I don't know how the kids feel about it, but, because, you think about, like, oh, my parents are embarrassing and they don't understand me or why I like the music I like. And
mm-hmm.
like, but today's parents, and for the past decade or so, have been showing, the kids, like, here's what's real music's like. here's the shows you really need to be watching.
Gurren Lagann, like Dragon Ball Z, are that the shows that come back the most? Like, what are the characters you see coming back the most popular ones?
Gohan is definitely, and some things we've yet to see because they're newer. But My Hero Academia is a huge show here, at least here in the United States, and I got to be fat gum for that. And 7 Deadly Sins was a big hit for Netflix here. Mm-hmm. So voicing Escanor in that. You never necessarily know, unless you just got your finger on the pulse of what's huge in Japan or what the kids are cosplaying as on the convention scene. It's like, what's the next big thing? I was a part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and that blows my mind to see how fiercely loyal and obsessed that fandom is about that show and every incarnation and every cast and every version. And it's like, I had no idea. I thought it was some episodic dude who showed up once, and he's one of the main guys, Kakyoin on Stardust Crusaders. It's like, what?
I apologize that I'm going to do this, but I am a pretty big fan of Kiba in Naruto.
Yeah.
And if you could just say something as Kiba, it would just tickle me so much.
Let's go, Akamaru. Fang over fang.
Sorry, I had to ask that. I know it's Dance Monkey Dance, but still, I can't. Yeah.
Hey, some people are like, no, I'm not going to do the voice. My voice is too tired at the convention. It's like, come on, this is what we're known for.
Yeah.
If I met a cartoon person that I've looked up to for years, of course I want to hear him break out into the voice. So yeah, I get it. And I love doing it. It's not hard for me to do. I love doing it. And it's like, I want to make a good impression. If those fans have been so dedicated and they've paid money to get into the building to see me, and they're paying all this money to spend time with people, it's like, I got to give them a positive experience. And it means a lot to me, and I want it to mean a lot to them too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'll gladly do a voice for them or customize things or whatnot. So now I do that with things since people are stuck at home or they can't make it to a convention, like Cameo, doing customized video shout outs, or I'm doing Twitch streaming and people can watch me play video games badly and answer Q&A. So I try to keep my toes dipped in staying interactive.
Yeah, I follow a lot of the shows you have voices in because I am a big fan of My Hero Academia. Oh. I've watched the 7 Deadly Sins. I have watched Naruto, One Piece, and Dragon Ball Z. It's for me even hard to catch up on those shows because the anime shows they exist in quantity sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to say they don't move along as quickly as I would love them to move along, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Let's go to the beach. No, just stay home and fight it out. That would be lovely.
Yeah, it's like you could just do what live action shows do in America and just show repeats. You don't have to create new things that aren't,
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds good in theory. It's like, let's learn more about the background characters, but it's just like, yeah, let's have a day at the park. And like, no, really? Come on, guys.
Yeah, it's like a show with One Piece that has, what is it?
1,000 plus.
1,000 episodes plus episodes. I just have to save those up, like watch like 20 or something in a couple of sittings, but I can't follow that up. Follow it up weekly.
There are so many of those. I will never watch it. I am just honest with people. It's like I will never be able to catch up.
that was my question.
I will never be able to catch up.
That was my question.
Yeah. I haven't seen, even though they're a lot smaller, and I think, okay, I could get through My Hero. I've watched season 1. It's really good. And I've watched my episodes. Mm-hmm. I like watching things that I'm in. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are like, no, I can't stay hearing my own voice. Like, I like to hear it in the final mix. I like hearing everyone together and seeing how it fits into the larger story. But yeah, smaller shows like that, 7 Deadly Sins, I'm curious about. I really wasn't before. It's like, I don't know if it's going to be my thing. Mm-hmm. But so many people just love this show. And it's like, well, it's on Netflix. I subscribe to Netflix. Maybe I ought to watch it someday.
Yeah. And like My Hero Academia, just like, was it 2 or 3 seasons? And Fat Gum has this really fun, amazing arc of 6 or 7 episodes.
Yeah.
So it's really digestible.
Yes. Yeah. And I do like that. And I've noticed nowadays the episode or the season arcs are a lot smaller. So back in the day, it was like, oh, season's like 22, 24, 26 episodes. And now it's more like 11 or 12. Like,
yeah, I notice it with Demon Slayer now. I got hooked on Demon Slayer, and we went, oh, just 1 season in what, 2 or 3 years? That's fun,
right?
And exciting, and making us wait.
Yep. Some things, they go away, then they come back years later, like Blue Exorcist or Fruits Basket. That was another one with Funimation that we did that did very well, and people were just jonesing for another season, but it ended up not being made until like a decade plus later, like 15 plus years later. They brought back this old show that I thought was kind of obscure, but anything can happen.
Well, Kyle, thank you so much again for doing this. This was so fun talking to you. I love voice acting. I love talking to voice actors. And I love talking to the people who made my childhood great. So this was really fun meeting you.
That's great, man. I've been so passionate about getting to work in this field and meeting such incredibly talented people and getting to touch base with the people who we're reaching when we're entertaining or they're inspiring or whatnot. It is so humbling and so wonderful to be a part of it all. So thanks for boosting the signal and all that fun stuff. I appreciate the opportunity.
This was Ben je nog aan het kijken for this week. For the people interested, you can get your dose of dubbed anime on Crunchyroll, Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu. Thank you for listening. Don't hesitate to drop something on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or our Discord if you enjoyed this episode and want to share it with your followers. I was your host, Xander de Rijke, and we'll pinch again
next time on Are You Still Watching?
Thanks, Kyle.
Met Xander de Rijke.